motto is a people without a voice cannot be heard. And so we're here serving San Diego's African and African American communities. And to that end, I'm here this evening with Dr. Leonard Thompson, our co-host, and with our managing editor of The Voice and Viewpoint, Ms. LaTanya West, who does all of the heavy lifting and picks all of the great things that you read each week and give me credit for. So, all right, here we are. Dr. Thompson.
Well, good evening to everybody. The heavy lifting is left to the young people, and so we're gonna let the managing editor take it away. So many great things are happening. I kind of want to jump in right away and say kudos on the new look of the website.
Let's
talk about that right quick.
Yeah, we're very excited. It's still a work in progress. I think that's always happening with websites. But yeah, it's a very great user experience. You're going to love the crisp pages, easy search tools. We got the calendar. We've got, what else do we have? It's just a great experience. I think you'll really enjoy going to the site either via mobile or desktop, and we're very excited about this next phase in our development as the Voice and Viewpoint and serving the public and our community with the news that matters to you.
Well, this is transformative, and if you look at the page, even as Dr. Thompson is flashing through, we have a collection of the things that we've done already, both in terms of video, and special events such as Biscuit, Grits, and Politics, our gala, town hall meetings while we were doing the Hate Project, the interactions with those communities. And then we are now producing a News Bite, which is our newsletter, email, if you will, 3 to 4 times a week, working toward every day, 7 days a week. We're on TikTok. We're on all the other social media platforms. We are uploading comments and conversations and opinions, and we're getting a tremendous response. We even, Dr. Thompson, had a big response last week to the fact that we weren't here.
Yeah.
we had a couple of hundred inquiries as to where we were at the last minute.
And
So this is a major project, and Tanya, without going into a lot of details, you can give some idea of how many various entities we are partnering with doing this transformation.
Oh my goodness. 4 that I count off the top of my head.
Yes.
Yeah, 4 different vendors and partners, and actually even more than that if you count the one that's actually
And these are
collaborative
people
effort.
who have been on the cutting edge of the digital transition and have done very well with it and are helping us as we catch up to that. We're not going to stop printing. We will continue to be a print publication, but we are able to put more online than we are in print. And so we will not ever leave behind our bread and butter foundation readership as we get older. Still in San Diego, 49% of the people are not on the internet. And so the events that get posted go away, but more and more people want that hard copy paper and picture that they can save and mount and do whatever with. So we're excited, and we want to thank you, our listeners and our readers and our supporters who continue to work with us through this very difficult time for papers, and especially under this administration with the cutbacks and the changes that are being done that are impacting so many organizations and media outlets. And yet, as Maya Angelou says, and still we rise.
Yes. And Dr. Warren, I was going through some of our older content that we had in print and just trying to think of other local stories that we've covered so many things that we just have such rich content. And I'm working really hard to make sure that that's discoverable on the site, and actually uploading some things that might not have made it on the site from a few years ago that are still relevant and things that I know the community will value. There's so much there, so much.
Well, I'm preparing to publish 25 years of editorials and commentaries, which I've already grouped in 5-year increments. and I have at least 7 years of sermon excerpts from the church side of what we're doing, because you all have been pushing me to hurry up and get this done before I check out. So I'm working on it to speed up the process, and a couple of more books in my head that I want to really kick out. So it's an exciting time, and I believe it's very important for people to know their past, because if you don't know where you come from, you have no idea where you're going. And unfortunately today, most of us are just focusing on where we are and where we think we want to be, and we aren't even looking at how we got to where we are. So these are very important times and issues that we're dealing with. As we move forward, Dr. Thompson and LaTanya, this week, I want to say a couple of words about the city's budget. The mayor presented a revised budget. His budget efforts have shown some real sensitivity, but it has not been enough in some instances. The observation was made in terms of District 4, the city council, still feeling too much of the brunt. And it was suggested that libraries and parks and recs should be cut in proportion to the affluency of the communities in which they're located. Now, we know that's going to be an issue, but so what? Everything's an issue. Let it happen. So this is important. And I am in agreement with the Library Foundation that talks about how every time there are cuts, they get hit. This proposal would close libraries on Sundays and Mondays. I don't know why Monday, I can see Sunday. It would cut out audio, it would cut out the tutorial programs, and some of this might not make sense to some people. But if you go to the Malcolm X library, not in the front door, but if you go around the side where a certain well-known person financed that whole digital lab that's there, which is a state-of-the-art. I mean, it's phenomenal what's there. The idea of locking these kind of things up when people need them. And I believe that even though we want to say Parks and Recs, I've always thought that the Parks and Recs program in San Diego, in the city of San Diego, is one of the weakest I've ever seen in the country. Because I came out of a recreation experience that led me to the Hill and to the politics, because it was such a good program the way it was working. And so they're going to cut recreation from 60 to 40 hours a week. But if truth be told, a lot of them aren't doing anything with the 40 hours. And so I think that we got to get some substance here. And we don't want to just be doing stuff just because of the color of it, but we want it to be meaningful. And if people are not using things, then they need to lose them and let people who want to use them have what needs to be used. So I'm hoping, I'm still concerned that while I heard the press conference and the presentation, our council people have not provided any documents, if I haven't seen them, maybe you, Dr. Thompson, to us in terms of the budget, their position, when they're going to be a listening post here in our community. I remember the last time we went through this budget situation when Monica was in office, and they did the same thing, and there was a community budget hearing at Mountain View Rec Center next to Neighborhood House. Mm-hmm. And there were more people there from staff than the community. I don't think there were more than 5 or 6 of us from community, because no effort is being made to share notice with us when we represent the entities in terms of notice and due process. So anyhow, I want to throw those things out. I don't know if people have thoughts on the budget, if you all do, but I think that we really need to look at that budget, because later we're going to really take a look at the county budget, as LaTanya's been looking at it, and we're going to see some things.
Well, I know that they're going to have some public hearings in May 5th through May 9th. I don't know that we have the list of locations yet, but we'll definitely be publishing that in the paper so that people know, and hopefully there'll be accessible locations for everyone in the county, not just centered in certain spots, you know.
Yeah, and the key message that we want to consistently say is that that not everybody is online, not everybody is actually reading. We have to have multiple ways of getting to the constituents so that they can be involved and also be present. I talked just recently to a very prominent person in our community, and there were several things that they knew nothing about because they're not online all the time, and it's not always on the news. They might read newspapers, but they're not seeing everything. And so how do we get the word out? How do we get the word out? And
Yeah.
so when you want to get the word out, you use all avenues, not just one avenue or what is convenient, but you use all avenues. It's kind of like if you want somebody to save your life, you just don't call 911. You know, you call on Jesus, you call on your friend, you holler, you scream until somebody meets your needs. But if you only got 911 and 911 said, please hold, you know what I'm saying? You could lose your life waiting for 911 when somebody else is right outside the door that can save you, but they didn't know about it because you didn't notify them.
Well,
So
Doc-
it's about us notifying
Right.
all.
Exactly.
Dr. Thompson, you just said something that kind of bothers me a little bit. I don't know how people can be prominent and be not informed.
Well,
Those just an oxymoron, you know?
well, no, you know, I think that, you know, sometimes when you retire, you know, you kind of disengage in a lot of areas that you were so on, and the things that used to inform you are not informed. So yes, they're still prominent, but they're not in the what we call the
In the
day-to-day
mix.
anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Day-to-day
more
mix.
weekend warriors now. Yeah.
Well, definitely outreach is important for sure, but it has to be a priority and it has to be intentional, obviously. And also, hopefully, the public hearings will be at times where regular working people can participate and not in the middle of the day.
Exactly.
And hopefully on at least one weekend day. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Did that help did that help, Dr. Ward?
No, but I'm going to let it go.
well, he's not naming names, so.
Yeah, and I'm not. I'll just say,
I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go.
But the thing is
and Doc, you know, just like us, we're in the business.
Yeah.
And there are things that happen in our city that we should know about,
Yeah.
that we don't know about, and we are actually a day to day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But
So-
there's also a reason we don't know about it, Dr. Thompson.
well, I think the
Okay.
reason is they don't want anybody else
Right.
to know about it either.
Right.
Thank you. And many times they specifically don't want us to know about it.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the part that bothers me, that people do things like, it's almost like, I remember years ago when we had a few black businesses left here and people were opening little shops, little corner shops, you know. When the Super Bowl came here, the Super Bowl turned to the community because they wanted the community to do one of the big receptions under a tent. Do you know we couldn't get 5 barbecue stands to come together to cater that event?
Why not?
Huh? Because first of all, they weren't big enough. They wouldn't share and work with each other. And by the time they finished going through the changes, they had gone and got
So
some
they
other
weren't ready
people
for the
to-
opportunity that presented itself.
Yeah, they were complaining about having an opportunity, but they weren't prepared
Yeah.
to rise to the occasion of the
Sometimes that
opportunity.
takes vision, though, right? Like
They said what?
Sometimes that takes vision to be prepared and ready when the opportunity presents.
No, not sometimes, all the time.
All the time, exactly. I was
Yeah.
trying to be diplomatic.
And then one of the things about it is that, you know, we have to get away from the us
Versus-
four and no more people, because a lot of times, you know, I got the best, you know, barbecue in the city. Why should I go and be with this person? I don't want my reputation to be besmirched by this person because their barbecue ain't as good as mine. But they could have taken the same technique, and stood in front of their ribs and passed them out, and nobody. Oh, this is good. I'm gonna go back to that area right there. But it is about how do we work together. And here's the thing that I want to say. I love the community of people, not calling any culture group out, but the community of people that even though they might not like you, they might despise you, they never let it hurt the money. They will always go and work together to get the money, and they'll go into their separate neighborhoods and not talk to each other. But they will not let the money go off the table. And a prime example is what's happening at the White House. You know, what's happening at the White House, we know that all them folks up there don't like each other. But matter of fact, most of them despise each other. But at the end of the day, they want money and power.
Yeah,
And so
powers.
because- Yeah, because they want money and power. Before you was the scum of the earth, but now you my best friend. And then until you get on that wrong side, and then you go back to being the scum of the earth again. You know, so I think that we have to just be very mindful that when opportunities come our way, we have to put our side things aside
Yeah,
and get to work. If not, somebody else will do it.
right? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It is just marvelous listening to you two. I mean, you know, first of all, you know, let's call it what it is. And we've been on the planet long enough, and especially in this town long enough, to realize that even when there's a call for unity, they can't fix their mouth to get with you if they don't like you. And we're all in the boat. Some people are rowing, some people are bailing, but there's a whole bunch of them back there with buckets.
Supervising.
No, they got buckets dipping water into the boat.
But that's where that void is filled by the example that is made. Like, we're a perfect example of collaboration, right? And in the paper, week to week, we show that example with our community events that we highlight and, feature in our center spreads and our community pages, and now more and more online. So those are the examples for people to follow. So, we just,
And we cover
I'm
people.
I'm trying to be more like Jesus. Even though they crucified him, until I go tell, I will still try to bring us together, because not everybody is going to come and get on the ark or whatever.
Yeah.
But the ones that do come will be blessed.
right.
Well, you just go right ahead, and I salute you, and you do that.
Come on, Pastor. Come on, Pastor.
No, don't play that card on me, because Jesus was the one that went in there and turned the tables over. He kicked the money changers out, okay? Because he wasn't tolerating the foolishness either. But, it's okay. We still, we are committed, as LaTanya says. We do it regardless. We cover people regardless. That's why we're a trusted messenger. Because for the most part, we don't let our personal feelings interfere with our clarion call to be the voice of a community. And a community is not a choir. It's not everybody singing a cappella on the same note. Community is in all kind of different tunes and the whole bit. But we still take the orchestra warm-up and turn it into a symphony with what we produce each week.
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that the audience that we're playing for is deaf.
Well, and hopefully,
some degree.
more and more, the message will be getting out there. Our website will reach far and wide, much further than it has our old site. So there's that, and just kind of getting the word out. Because I think sometimes people don't realize what the paper has been doing, and the type of coverage that we've been giving the community.
Yeah, and one of the things about it is that with the upgrades that the newspaper is doing with the digital platforms, with the news bites and things of that nature, what you're doing is engaging a younger population that does know how to navigate and are a part of that. So you're not forgetting about the older people that want the
No.
print and want to be able to feel and hold, but you're also making sure that you're able to have the Voice and Viewpoint on your device. You're able to watch it on the computer. You're able to get news feeds and important messages that will come out. And it has now become a very, very formative tool for the communities to use, not only locally but nationwide, to tap into what's going on and having really good dialogue. And the beautiful thing about it is that when people begin to write into the newspaper to actually see themselves published and having to build dialogue around concerns and issues, always very, very another exciting piece. And with the website, the paper comes out once a week, but the website is every day. And things are changing on there every single day.
Exactly.
And so the dynamicness of the website now and the work, and this has been, a year or two in the making?
Almost a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Almost a year. Yeah.
And so Dr. Warren, as we go forth, let's just talk about what motivated you to pull the trigger to do the new things with the newspaper.
Consciousness, being alive, realizing if you change, you either change or you die.
Yeah.
And from a business standpoint, you can't be in business if you're not following marketing trends. And that's what we've done. That's why we've been a survivor by the grace of God, because we have made adjustments in terms of who we reach and how. And it hasn't been an easy journey in a city where in the past 25 years, this San Diego County has lost more than 12 newspapers. And every print shop that did print papers is gone out of business. Our business, our
county,
papers printed
city.
in Orange County. In Anaheim at this point, I think that's Orange County, in Anaheim, because of
Yeah,
changes.
that's
But we are still evolving because of the technology. When I drive around San Diego, at one point we had over 350 newsstands on the street and 2 people with vehicles servicing them 5 days a week. And it's amazing when I drive and I see places where we had stands and they're gone because everything is online. And I can marvel at the fact that we're online, that we're doing well being online, that we're reaching people that it was hard to reach when we were just physically a paper, like Oceanside. I mean, we've got people that read the Voice and Viewpoint all over the city, all over the state.
All over the world.
We got 184 countries that we have tracked that have people in them that read the Voice and Viewpoint online.
So let me ask you a question. And this going back to the days where you had newsstands. Do they even make the newsstands anymore, or do you have to renovate old ones?
Well, it's 2 things. The newsstands are still produced. There are some places that still have them. Remember, the whole country is not yet wired for the internet, and one of the places that we've been looking at mostly has been like the Indian reservations. Okay, and so we have people that are not getting that information. They can't get online. They got to go to a library or whatever. 49% of the people in the city of San Diego are not online. Okay, and so I'm always reminding people of that when elected officials tell somebody, well, just go to our website. Well, really, I got to go to the library to get to your website, and now the library is going to be missing some days in terms of it. And so these things are real, that we make adjustments.
So in looking at today, modern, and just want to start off, news outlets. We know we have stands, and they might be in stores. I know that every time I go to my barber shop, there's papers there. My question to you, is there a map online for people that want to get physical copies?
And there's a reason that we don't.
Okay.
Because in the past, we put a listing of all the places the paper was available, and we were vandalized systematically in the list. It was like somebody hired someone to take a van and go to every newsstand behind us, take the papers, mark up the stands, take the stands, destroy them. And so what we do is, if you see us online and you need a physical copy, if you tell us where you are, we can tell you the place closest to you where you can find the paper, whether it be East County or La Jolla or South County or going north. I mean, we can tell you, but that's why we don't do it anymore, because of the systematic attacks that we've experienced. And we're still being attacked every week. We have people marking up our stands, and I'm not going to call out the groups because I know which ones they are. We have people breaking our windows that cost us $15 a piece to replace the plexiglass. And then we have people stealing about 30 to 40% of our papers each week that we put out online because they think it's just, this is what I'm supposed to do. Bebe is in the paper, so let me put in 50 cents and take all of them.
Yeah, we've had actually people come to our doorstep at the office and do that. Like seeing people actually right in front of us, just have like a whole...
In their minds, they're not, it's
like
amazing.
No shame.
They're not stealing. In their minds, they're not stealing.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's one of the pitfalls that you have. You know, it's a choice. Do I stay popular? Do I rather have them steal the paper and read or sell it? Well, at one time they were taking the papers out of the stand before the internet, and then the little enterprising kids were taking the paper and selling them.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question now. You know, just as we move forward and things of that nature, you know how everything is evolving? Have newsstands evolved that we're to the point that they can just distribute one paper at a time?
Oh, sure. Okay. They have those stands. They have stands that are magnetic. They can tell the difference between a slug and a coin. But the problem is the cost of those stands. Yeah. And it's not cost effective. It's just like we have a barcode. We're in 7-Eleven. We could be in the grocery stores. We could be in Walmart because we have permission to be in all these locations. But the problem is that from a business standpoint, if you put your product in one franchise entity, you have to make it available to all of them, unless you can get some kind of a negotiated agreement that will limit where you do it. Yeah. So with the 7-Elevens, the things that helped us over the years is that some of the 7-Elevens were franchise stores and some of them were privately owned. The thing that helped me before the Japanese bought or after the Japanese bought 7-Eleven was that one of the presidents of 7-Eleven was a close friend and came here and made sure that the people in San Diego County in the stores did business with Voice and Viewpoint. And so that made a difference because what you had happening each day, the UT being daily would come in, since we were once a week, and put their papers on top of us. Mm-hmm. And if the store didn't check it, because the stores are making money off of each copy of our paper that they sell as well. And if they didn't care enough to check it, then it was a waste of time.
Yeah.
And so there's some business. You see, this is where business comes into the picture. It's more than just a newspaper. And I'm so glad that I was fortunate enough to have a degree and a background in business. Let me give you a very important example. About 35 years ago, the New Yorker magazine was having some difficulty. And so they hired a new publisher and an editor. And so they went on a campaign to expand the circulation of the magazine because people were familiar with the New Yorker. The problem is that while they expanded circulation, they did not expand the income from the areas that they were expanding to. So their production costs went up when their revenue did not rise to match it. So you have to be concerned. A lot of black people have learned this when they first start putting things like Kwanzaa cards in Walmart. And then you got to say, well, okay, how many stores can I get? Can you negotiate just certain stores based on demographics? All of this gets to be very, very important. And so it's an education process. And we used to try to share that when we created the Black Chamber here, because we wanted to help black businesses stay in business once they went in business. And so we still have this issue that people want to be in business, but a lot of people don't know anything about business. Mm-hmm. And that makes a difference. I don't want to turn this to a seminar, but
Well, no, the reason I'm asking is because as we're looking at the growth and where the newspaper is going, and people will ask the question of why. Why don't we upgrade our newsstands? Mm-hmm. And because the cost effectiveness of doing that, it would probably take us 5 to 10 years to even see a break-even mark.
Oh, but we do upgrade, and I'm glad you made this point, Dr. Thompson, because first of all, I have $1 million liability policy with the city to cover every stand that I have on the streets. Okay. That's number one, so that costs me. Number two, the city's people are forever monitoring us in terms of, is our stand clean? Are the windows marked up? And so many times, and many of people are homeless, that we can change a window today, and my son can do it today and come back tomorrow, and it's graffitied all over again. And so then we have to go back and clean it, but we paint the stands. We do the maintenance on the spot, where we used to have enough to just switch them out. That was no longer cost effective to do that. And then there's the issue of, and my son had to make this point to city officials, the sidewalk is the city's property. Now, they got the inspection people wanting you to anchor the stands, but if you anchor the stands, then you are destroying city property. So now the next thing that happens is, if the people come along and take your stand and leave the boat sticking up and somebody trips and falls, now you got a lawsuit. I went through that many years ago. And this is why I knew that as my stands began to disappear, that the city was behind taking them, even though I paid a fee for each location, because everywhere my stands were missing, the boats were leveled to the ground. Thieves aren't going to do that. The city did that. And when I asked the city, we have no idea. But yet I'm paying for each location. So these are just some of the business things. But the important thing is that we keep on, and we're surviving, and we're serving our community. This is the 198th year of the Black Press. And we're going to find, as we get through this whole experience that we're having with government, that at the end of the day, we are the trusted messenger.
Well, I kind of want to go back and just ask the question again. So are you saying that everywhere your newsstands are, you have to rent that space?
No, I'm saying that until recently, everywhere a newsstand is, I had to pay a fee to the city. I had to lease if you want to say lease the space. Okay. But then when something happened to the stands that I paid for and the city did it, they act like they didn't know anything about it.
Okay. And so the reason why I want, a lot of times when we talk business and we talk journey, a lot of times people don't understand the journey and why sometimes you might respond in a certain way because they've never experienced the journey of trying to, one, make news available and having people just randomly vandalize, some of them systematically vandalizing, some of it is racially motivated, some of it is plain as jealousy. I don't want them to buy your newspaper, we're the big newspaper. All these different things as you begin to build this, and yet after so many years you all are still surviving and being those trusted messengers. So let me move forward in talking about, you said that it's not printed in San Diego anymore, you have to go up. At one point, Dr. Warren, were you considering owning your own printing press?
Oh, sure.
You used
About
to.
25 years ago, I went through the whole business. I leased a building from the city down in Otay. We were ready to do this. I was about to buy, this was about the time the Vista Press went out of business. Mm-hmm. And when I found out that they went out of business, I called them and offered to buy their press. The guy hung up the phone on me, sold the press to a broker, and gave the broker my number to try to come sell me the press at a higher price. Mm-hmm. Okay? Then I had another opportunity with people I printed. They had just spent like $1.5 million on the golf machines, upgraded everything. A dump truck ran off of Highway 94 just before you get to college and landed on top of the building. Mm-hmm. And damaged it so that it was not feasible for them to reopen. These people offered to sell me their equipment, and they offered to come on board with me and bring all their clients and spend at least 6 months helping train me for the equipment. The bank that held a note to the property would not sell it to me, okay? And they held it so long that they finally had to get rid of it because there was a time when banks couldn't hold real property too long. They had to turn it over. And they wouldn't give me a loan for $50,000 to buy $1.3 million worth of equipment, but they sold it at an auction for $20,000.
Wow.
Okay? So, yeah, I mean, there's race all through the whole, everything that happens here with this. And that's why we have come this far in spite of, and many times not even discussing the issues. I mean, when we came here, there was a newsroom at City Hall. Mm-hmm. I went to City Hall and asked for a key. They told me I didn't need one. Mm-hmm. And I told them either I will get a key or we'll close it down. Mm-hmm. And it's been that kind of battle over the years to keep serving people who find you when they're in crisis, many of them. And I thank God for the loyal base that we have. Mm-hmm. But there's just so many of us who it's human nature to respond in a crisis and not to respond otherwise.
Now, let me ask you this, and this is something that I remember growing up, coming to the Voice and Viewpoint. Every single week, you would have papers bundled up to be mailed out. Is that still a service that is still going
sure.
forth?
It's not only a service, we have paid subscribers. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there are many people out of state who have lived here, and they still want the hard copy. The older generation does not want to go online. Mm-hmm. Okay? I remember.
Some do.
Some do, but a lot don't. You know, at 25 years ago.
It's not that sexy to be on your computer at the morning table drinking your coffee. But when you have the paper, you can do it and cross your legs and look over your paper and still sip your coffee. That's a real sexy look.
Well, you know, there was an old guy who was a senior editor at the Union Tribune. He was Republican. He had been there through Reagan and all of that. And many years ago, we had a communications conference, and this is when Cox was discussing fiber optics, and they wanted to they were putting fiber optics in all the developments that they built during the late 80s and the 90s, remember? Mm-hmm. Okay, and they had a cable commission, and so they were now getting ready they were talking about being able to send movies over a telephone line. Mm-hmm. And news over a phone line. Mm-hmm. And so Herb, I can't think of his last name, he was about 70 or something, old editor at the UT. So we were on a break, and I remember Herb saying to me, he's saying, John, you know, he says, when I go to the bathroom, he says, I want to take a newspaper to read. I don't want to take a laptop. And I said, and that really kind of summed it up, because the whole idea of only writing so that what you write can be read in 3 minutes comes from Reader's Digest. Because Reader's Digest made this money making things short so you could fit like that. So you have to learn these things that many people just take for granted. But it's like driving a car, driving a stick. You know where the gears are, and when you get it, you just go through the thing. Anybody who doesn't know sitting there, they don't know what you're doing.
Well, one of the things, Tanya, I'm going to come to you. We grew up in an era where there was the rotary phone with a cord.
Yes.
So that we had to have the long cord. So if we wanted to go get privacy, we'd have that cord
That's right.
and go into the room. And then they came up with the wireless phone, and then they came up with the 2 lines where people could click it. You
That's
could say,
right.
hold on. Before, if it was busy, it was just busy.
Right.
So in moving forward in the evolving of the news business,
Yeah.
but yet still keeping the past. And I use it as an example. We went from LPs to 45s to 8 tracks to CDs to tapes to CDs, and lo and behold, we're back at the LPs and people want vinyl again. So how do you maintain the trend of what's happening in the industry, but always realizing that they're going to want those LPs or those hard copies too?
Well, that's the reason for keeping print alive. And I mean, I prefer print. I prefer print books, newspapers.
It looks better when you take your pictures. I know. I got you.
No, it's just I just like the feel of having a book or a newspaper. I just prefer that. I don't really enjoy online news surfing or what have you. But that's why we keep the print. We're going to always keep the print alive, because I think there's going to be a trend back to things that are tangible. Because I mean, who remembers when iTunes became Apple Music, and all of a sudden what happened to all your stuff that you bought? And this digital format, it's just so ephemeral. It's like, there's nothing meaty to hold on to. You can't own anything.
So you used the big word right there. You got to say, you got to tell
Well,
what it means.
that's what I was saying. You can't hold on to anything. You can't hold on to it, and you can't own it. All of a sudden, like before with CDs, regular records, even tapes, you had your collection. And you owned that stuff. You could sell it. It was a product. It was an asset.
Yeah.
But now it's just all these little files that can be lost, and it's like it's not real.
And here's the fun thing about that is that we are celebrating our 30-year anniversary for Mandate Records. And when we first started off, we had videotapes.
Yeah.
And so we videotaped everything before we went to CDs and everything like that. And so now we're trying to do 30 years of history, and everything's on a videotape. But then it creates another market. You got to go buy a video player and a DVD.
This is
and
true.
they're bundling them up in combos now because they know that people have it. But now they got this little thing that's like $160 that you plug it in, and it takes everything that was there and it can make it digital.
It's easier now.
And you can take the digital and put it wherever you want to put it. So at the same time, we never lost the videotape. We never lost this. So as you're moving forth with the new technology, now people say, oh, you got a new website, you got a new website. But it's more than a website. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about
absolutely.
the technology that's coming, some of the technology that's coming with the new website.
Well, it's just, as they call it in the industry, the user experience. You know how you go to some websites and it's not an enjoyable, it's not easy to find what you're looking for. The optics aren't great, it might be blurry, and the way it's designed, it doesn't naturally flow with how you would normally read something. So all of those things are a part of the new technology that we have, because the site that we're using now was designed for publications like ours and newspapers. So the vendors that we're using to help us with this site know our business and know what our customers need and want. So there's that. And it also has built into it discoverability, I would say, so it's easier for people to find us as they're searching for just news in general. So it's really exciting in that way. And just being able to just go in there and fix something like that without having to wait for somebody to do it for us.
Well, I
I'm
also,
gonna ask Dr. Warren. I'm coming to you because I wanted to tease you about this, but I want you to jump on it. So tell me, how do you use your algorithms?
He's like, Tanya.
no, I'm skipping over because there's a point that has to be made with this, and I try to share this with people. When you see the movie Hidden Figures, and what those women did, if it hadn't been for that movie, most of us would have never known the role they played in the space program. But yet, most of the footage for that story came from the Norfolk Journal and Guide, which is a black paper. Now, this in June when we meet at NMPA in Savannah, Georgia, the local paper there is celebrating 150 years of publication. And when the digital age came on board, the Afro-American newspapers were the first to put up all of their archive of World War I and II experiences of black soldiers, and even the 6888 comes out of that kind of research in terms of coverage. So what we're doing is very important in terms of the future of our community, and that's why we're being very careful in terms of even our archives. I'm giving my papers to Howard University, to the Moreland Library, and that's where we have the Hall of Fame for the enshrining of all of our past publishers, going back to Rushworm and them, and the
Freedom Press.
the Free Press, and so these are things that
Freedom
we prepare. Freedom Journal, and when we started with the Voice and Viewpoint, we had a room with papers that were just piled up, not sorted. We had to sort them. We sent many of them off to be bound before the bindery here went out of business, and so there's no longer one locally. And we had plans for a reading room where people could come in and read. But let me tell you the danger to that. I learned this at Howard University when I was in law school. We had old books that had cases going back like to Amistad and what happened with that whole thing. Do you know, and we never found out who did it, but someone went into the library, took those precious books, and took razor blades and cut those pages out of the books and kept them with no concern for those who, and that was what we had, okay? And so we have a sense of guardianship with the paper. We have a sense of being entrusted as the keepers of the flame, literally, in terms of what we do. And I can see that now in San Diego, because you remember 30, 40 years ago, Larry Malone was the only person that had any kind of written record of San Diego. And we tried to get Larry to republish his books and findings. Chuck Ambers has all this data from Old Town in terms of what he did. And then he went up to Julian and with the Roberts family, who had the hotels and did all kinds of special history days. And so we don't have those things happening to the extent that we used to, Dr. Thompson. And that's kind of a sad, because out at Campo, we used to have a day in February where the Buffalo Soldiers came. Many of them are gone now. And they brought chuck wagons out there. And they actually cooked the biscuits and the beans and stuff the same way it was cooked by those guys. And now we have that restored segregated train out there that runs. Very few of us have bothered to go out there and have that experience. And so we have to want to be informed with what is the past while we move forward.
And that's the amazing thing about partnership. A lot of times people don't do things, one, because they might not know, they might not even desire to go in, but then trusted messengers make it important, make it interesting, and then all of a sudden we create a day and we do some things as a collective. And now, in this generation, everybody needs to have that feeling of entertainment or being relevant at that time. And that's what I think a lot of times the paper allows you to do, is still remain relevant on issues that are current and are important to us. Now, I know that we did a lot of talk about the newspaper, but I think that it was, Dr. Warren, I wanted to spend some time on where the growth is, what we're doing as a collective, who you're partnering with, and then last but not least, just the increase of staff as well as interns that are getting the experience that they will take with them for life.
Well, let
Yeah.
me just tell you, those things I do not want to discuss, and I won't discuss because of the environment that we're in, and it's part of why we have survived. Because there are too many people who want to grab what we say and run off with it, and short circuit what we're doing. So some things is best kept to us while we let people see the results of what we produce. They don't need to know how we produce. You know, there was a time when we first bought the paper, the rumor went out that we at the Voice and Viewpoint did not produce the paper there when we were on Market Street across from the flower stand. The rumor was that we took the information in and handed it to some white people out the back door. And then they printed it and brought the paper back and gave it to us because we weren't smart enough to do what we were doing. And so my answer to that is we have always been like the bumblebee. Aerodynamically, he's not supposed to fly, but nobody told him. And so we keep going, and that's why we don't. And I know it might not always make a lot of sense, but there's a certain guardianship that you have to do in a competitive marketplace, because as papers are folding around the country, people begin to look at niche markets, and the black press holds a niche market of faithful people. And so the next thing is let us go over there and try to imitate that market, since we done lost our market. Because the businesses that they lost, the grocery stores, the car dealerships, the department stores, we never had them in the first place. So it didn't make any difference to us that they went away, because we were thriving in spite of, in terms of what we had to do. And
Well, I think another important point, I think, for people to understand and realize is how much work we put into the paper each week and this new stage that we're in. I mean, it takes a lot of work, and we're with what we have. You know, we do a lot. If you look back and think of what we do with what we have in our team that we have now.
That's important, Latanya, because you see, if you came into our office like today we went to press, if you came into our office on a Monday or Tuesday, you would say, "Well, they ain't doing nothing here." You know, I don't see no whole bunch of people. But we got people all over the country working on the paper. We got people in other places, you know, the graphic people in other states, and all of these things. Latanya's coordinating this stuff. You know, the writers in the UK, and you know, it's no accident.
Yeah. And that's what I was alluding to, is how you're navigating, you know, doing this great work, but you're no longer nailed down to the home base, that you have a great reach. And that has made what you all do not only more relevant, but also you're no longer being held hostage by the talent pool that's in the city.
Absolutely.
Oh no, and we have and had for years partnerships with CNN and Associated Press and other media entities. And we pay for those partnerships so that we have access to the same news that you see on CNN or MSNBC.
But it's not for lack of wanting to have the
we want
local.
more,
I mean,
but,
you know, we would love it if more people
and that's what we're working toward.
who have skills, you know, who understand what we're doing, have a passion for our mission. It's just,
And a lot of
that's
young
the
people,
challenge.
they want to do television, but they don't
Yeah.
understand the relationship of print. Okay? And I have to, when we're training people that we get, you know, I started out with both print and television at the same time, learning them both, going down the runway. Okay? And so television, oh yeah, I got 10 years of tapes in terms of television, in terms of what we've done. So a lot of it is people just make assumptions about us because we're small as far as they're concerned. But I am so thankful with the hard work that Latanya is doing that people are noticing us in many ways, because historically, the Voice and Viewpoint, we've changed it. We're changing that as we do transformation, but we never had to have a sales staff because our business came as a result of what we were doing. So anyhow, it's been good. I didn't mean for us to take all this time. I wanted to mention something very important because it's impacting all of us, and that's some of the decisions that are being made at the White House. Now, on Black Men and Women United, Dr. Robinson shared with us the other day, and those who are eligible can call the paper, leave your email, and be added to that list that meets every Tuesday from 8 till about 9. and he talked about the number of cases of measles, the deaths that are occurring, the fact that monies have been cut back in terms of CDC, money's been cut in terms of food inspections. And so our challenge now is to tell people to be very careful in terms of what you buy and how you spend and check and keep informed because products are being recalled, not just at your local grocery store, but, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, they're considered sacred cows. And they got products on the shelves that people are recalling. And so it's up to us to kind of help our people see what's taking place.
Especially with the cuts and inspections and, agencies that protect us and our food and water and air and all of that. There's so many things that are trickling down and are going to affect us locally, even just to know what's happening and how it affects us locally, and be informed about that.
Yeah, in the last few minutes, I wanted to talk about the impact of the blackout in the White House and in other legislative areas for press being selectively chosen. I watched a press release today, and it almost seemed like they were told that you're not to show anybody behind the current president, that everything must be zoomed right in on him versus showing him back. So my question is how is that impacting our press to get that information out to be as a trusted messenger?
Well, our White House Chief of Staff, April Ryan, has been a White House reporter for some 25 or 30 years. The people that Trump tried to block from being there, the courts overruled that and said that couldn't be done. Okay, and so that's a different issue from the camera setup. Yeah. Now, I've been in that press room a number of times, and you really never get the feel for how tiny that space is that they're in. And then on the offshoots, for the people who have desks there, they have this desk right here would represent 2 workspaces in terms of the little press cubbies that they're in. And so we don't know, the courts can't control what they do with the camera, but it sure has hunkered down on the fact that you can selectively exclude people because you don't like them. That's a First Amendment violation, and the courts have held that to be very strong. So we are in the room, and we're doing coverage. Matter of fact, we have more than one. We have, I think, 2 different people. And if you want to catch up with what we're doing, most of that you have to go to Black Press USA.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not all freely distributed back to us, even though NMPA owns Black Press USA, and we have a website, but most of those things are just kept within that context. And then every morning at 7 o'clock, which is 4 o'clock our time, there is a network program, Let It Be Known, that broadcasts with live news coverage from Washington, from the press room at headquarters there.
Black Press USA.
Yeah.
So that's on the website. Is it a network or just on?
It's NNPA's other site. So basically, it's the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Black Press.
Okay, and that's
.com. Yes.
And it
yes.
comes on a specific standard time. It comes on at 4:30 in the morning.
It comes on Eastern Standard Time, which is
I'm not sure. Sorry
is
about
a
that.
problem. But it comes on at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so
On the East Coast.
4 o'clock our time.
Yeah, so that means if I want to be on, I got to get up at 3
Yeah.
here, and it's pretty
But
much
it's
like
on the website, though.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
static
following
on it. You
the
can
stock
find
market,
it.
you know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're 3 minutes away from, or 4 minutes away from our closer. Anything that's coming up, talking about editorials. I know that there were some things. I know that I just got a text message from D4 that they will be having a budget town hall meeting scheduled for May 15th, Thursday evening.
Yeah,
from
but did
6
they
to
send
8
it to us too?
Yeah,
May 15th or the 5th?
No.
No, May 15th.
Yeah,
Okay.
but did they send it to Voice and Viewpoint?
I would believe so.
I don't want to believe it unless I see it.
Let me see.
Okay, because that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And we don't have time for that foolishness. A certain
News at
question.
sdvoice.info.
Say what?
News at sdvoice.info.
They know the website. They don't intend to send
No,
it.
that's the email.
The
To
email.
send press
They know
releases
the
and-
email.
Press conference
I just want to
notices.
respond to a question that one person raised about newsstands. We no
Yeah.
longer list how many newsstands we have, especially in view of the digital presence that is rapidly expanded beyond the physical. Remember, we're keeping the paper out of commitment to a loyal base and the commitment to maintaining print. But if you go back and look at the gala 2025 and the State of the Press address that I gave, in that address alone, I shared with you that we had over 230,000 views just in terms of the different things that we have up. So if one wants to know something, all they have to do is call and ask. But I'm not publicizing a list or telling you where to go in general, because if you can find TikTok, then you can find us.
But also, too, people are taking them. The city
Yes.
and businesses are just saying, we don't want this here. They're getting rid of all their newsstands. Like, for instance, in Chula Vista, where I used to live right up the street, there was nice stands. This Us, I believe it was Union Tribune and maybe one other publication. They got rid of all those news. They didn't want them.
Oh yeah, they're just, and they
Yeah.
don't warn you. They just
They-
take your
yeah, they're
stands
like,
and trash
hello,
them.
they're-
Okay, and they were more subtle about it before.
Yeah.
Because the Latino community, they didn't want to alienate them because the Latino and the Filipino community are supportive in terms of businesses that carry their stuff. We were the ones that were most victimized. In the days before the internet, the UT would put 4 newsstands at a grocery store just to make sure that nobody else could get a space. Okay, so
I remember that.
yeah, we got a lot of things going on, but it's still we rise and we're doing well. And we
Yeah.
want to thank those who continue to support us. We're not going to raise our prices. We're going to stay at 50 cents. If you go buy the UT today, now a single copy is $2.85. If you try to buy the Wall Street Journal, they used to be available every day, it's $7 or $8 and all those kind of crazy things because it's not cost effective. But
But the print paper is also online.
yes,
You
and
can
and
look
you,
at our issue every week online
and
for
everything
free.
that you see in
No
the copy
cost.
is available for free.
Yeah, no
But we
cost.
still have people who subscribe because there are people who
Absolutely.
still want the physical copy. And I want to say I agree with Dr. Michelle when she says she still likes to open her Bible because I believe that, and statistics have shown that when people make notes or read books, the retention is greater than when you look at something on an electronic device. Okay, and so I don't like for people to don't come to church with me with your computer. You better bring a book and a pad or just stay at home.
And you know what, too? If you think about it, when you look at the news, either the cable news or the regular local stations, they're still getting their stuff from the newspapers
Yes,
and the
they
print
are.
publications, if you
Yeah,
think about
yep,
it. And they're
they
putting
go-
up the articles and
they
according
going straight
to,
down the list.
yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, with that being said, we have had a full conversation with the desk of the editor. I hope that you all are play it back, share it with a friend. Just the wonderful things that are taking place with the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. A lot of good things. So stay tuned. And until next time, y'all be blessed. Next week, it looks like it might be all women on the show.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it might be. And Dr. Thompson, as you close out, I want people to appreciate the partnership that we have with Mandate at GOD Radio, because we're one of the few papers in the country, black papers, that have such a partnership that allows us to do things like what we did when we streamed the funeral of Leon Williams and the things that we put up, that we broadcast and and put on YouTube.
And that got over 1,000 views.
It sure did.
So it served the community well.
And we're still getting views to the gala and to the town hall meetings and all the things that we have online. So your partnership has helped make that possible, and we appreciate it.
And one of the things that we do need to say is that what you all do is that you guys become an archive. And so when people are looking for it, it's still there. It's not just there for a moment, but you archive things for life. And so that's amazing.
And the
So-
news site will make it easier to find those things.
Exactly. Well, from the desk of the editor, you all have a very blessed evening. Thank you so much for tuning in.